If you become the opposite of what you always were, you have to change your name. It's become a trend in America these days, morphing into something completely different from what you were founded as, but still pretending you're the old you. Finally, new rule, there's nothing wrong with not having an opinion on something, especially if you don't know what the f*** you're talking about. And if you're getting your facts from TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, I don't want to hear your hot take on asymmetrical warfare, because there's a term for someone who gets their news from Facebook. Mom.
He took aim at so-called woke brands, calling out what he sees as shallow strategies and breaking down why so many of them are starting to unravel. The comedian didn't hold back, openly explaining why these companies are failing and where they lost their way.
TLC stands for the Learning Channel. They used to have shows like Learn to Read and Ready, Set, Learn. Here's some of their present and recent offerings. Cake Boss, Gypsy Sisters, Toddlers and Tiaras, Extreme Couponing, What Not to Wear, My Teen is Pregnant and So Am I. 1,000-Pound Sisters and Alaskan Women Looking for Love. And that's just the shows about the Palins.
He criticized show producers for drifting away from their original purpose and wandering into ideological territory that has nothing to do with the brands they built. Instead of prioritizing strong storytelling, sharp writing, and real entertainment value, he argued that many have started chasing political trends they don't fully understand. He did acknowledge that some of this shift may come from fear of becoming irrelevant or fading out entirely in an increasingly crowded media space, but Maher made it clear that reacting out of panic isn't progress, it's surrender.
The A in A&E stands for arts. Seriously, they used to show the symphony. Now they have Deep Fried Dynasty, Hoarders, Storage Wars, Ghost Hunters, and Psychic Kids. You know, for people who find the Learning Channel too intellectual. The History Channel has no history, and MTV has no music. I'm just saying, you can buy a petting zoo and turn it into a bondage dungeon, but you gotta change the sign.
Maher took aim at A&E, arguing that the network has strayed far from the meaning behind its own name. In his view, the channel slowly pushed aside the arts in a rush to chase broader, trend-driven programming. Instead of staying true to its original purpose, highlighting creativity, culture, and artistic expression, it shifted toward content designed mainly for mass appeal. He acknowledged that America's audience is diverse, with a wide range of tastes and viewing habits, but he emphasized that not every network needs to serve everyone.
For decades, Playboy was the go-to whack-off magazine for heterosexual men, with reviews of movies that came out 6 months ago and a lot of information about stereos. And fiction by Kurt Vonnegut. But mostly the masturbation thing, which was facilitated by pictures of women naked. Well, in 2016, Playboy did away with the nudity. They took the out of Playboy. It's like taking the cats out of Cat Fancy. Last year, Playboy put a gay man on the cover, which I guess we're supposed to celebrate, even though it was 2021 and there's already a dozen magazines for gay guys, 13 if you count.
He then put Playboy under the microscope, criticizing the brand for walking away from the very formula that once gave it fame, influence, and financial success. According to Maher, Playboy didn't gradually adapt to cultural change, it panicked. Under pressure from activist criticism, the brand abandoned its identity in an effort to appear morally in step with the moment. What happened next, he argued, was completely predictable. The magazine lost its cultural relevance, alienated its core audience, and failed to offer anything compelling to a new one.
59% of consumers now will buy a product or boycott a product based solely on the political stance a company takes. Gen Z consumers need to know if their spermicide condemns cockfighting. Disney didn't want to get into a big pissing match with Ron DeSantis about grade school, but its employees sure did, so they had to. Now one side thinks Disney said too much, the other thinks it didn't say enough. We see this pattern over and over. We saw it with Bud Light when they did ads with a trans influencer, and MAGA Nation thought it was a plot to use beer to turn them gay.
America has become so divided that even major brands now have to navigate a cultural minefield. One misstep, one badly timed message, and a company can be hit with instant backlash, viral outrage, and organized boycotts. In this climate, businesses are no longer judged only by the quality of what they sell, but by where they're perceived to stand politically. That's why clarity of identity matters more than ever. Ma argued that brands do the most harm to themselves when they abandon their core values.
Do we really need LGBT representation in Playboy? There's a transgender teenager on every show on television except reruns of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. The same thing is going on with the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, which now celebrates all kind of bodies except, you know, the good kind.
The reason these brands built massive followings in the first place is simple. They stood for something clear. They offered a specific product, identity, or message that people genuinely connected with. Customers didn't support them by accident. They showed up in huge numbers because the brand sparked excitement, earned loyalty, or consistently delivered value. That focus created trust, recognition, and long-term engagement. But the moment those companies walked away from their core message, the very thing that drew people in, everything started to fall apart. Instead of reinforcing what worked, they swapped it out for vague slogans and constantly shifting narratives that felt forced and unfamiliar. Loyal customers stopped recognizing the brands they once believed in, and as that bond faded...
Was it really such a crime against humanity to have one magazine once a year that was about finding creative ways for supermodels to hide their holes? Now it looks like it's edited by the Huffington Post. Jeez, you have every other magazine. Do you hate Dad that much? If he can't rub one out in the garage, what is he supposed to do in there? Actually sand something? This is not progress. You haven't reformed the soft-core gentleman masturbator. You've driven him to creepy.com.
What was meant to educate, enlighten, and reshape audiences ended up backfiring spectacularly. Instead of feeling informed or inspired, viewers felt lectured, talked down to, and emotionally disconnected from content they once enjoyed. The messaging came across as forced rather than natural, turning entertainment into instruction manuals nobody asked for. The outcome? Audiences didn't engage more, they tuned out. Even worse, many turned to unconventional and alternative platforms to satisfy their curiosity and unmet interests. These outlets...
Back in the 90s, Michael Jordan famously said he stayed out of politics because, quote, Republicans buy sneakers too. And then Kanye said, and don't forget Nazis. But the days when someone could say that and keep their opinions to themselves, those days are gone. Big Brother says that having no opinion is not an option anymore. You must participate in this online circle jerk, or you will be seen as an insensitive prick who's single-handedly obstructing much-needed progress in the world. Did you post a black square? No? Well, that's why there's still racism.
He criticized show producers for drifting away from their original purpose and wandering into ideological territory that has nothing to do with the brands they built. Instead of prioritizing strong storytelling, sharp writing, and real entertainment value, he argued that many have started chasing political trends they don't fully understand. He did acknowledge that some of this shift may come from fear of becoming irrelevant or fading out entirely in an increasingly crowded media space, but Maher made it clear that reacting out of panic isn't progress, it's surrender.
Valentine's Day, which was always a day to celebrate coupledom. It wasn't complicated. Flowers, chocolates. And yet, every year now, I more and more hear this idea that Valentine's Day is also a day to celebrate being alone. Be your own Valentine. That's right, on the one day was specifically set aside to honor bonding between two people. Don't do that. Make it about the opposite of that. Be your own Valentine. Get your own cheap, stale chocolates at CVS. You don't even need to have with someone else. Yourself.
Maher pointed to a far more practical and disciplined approach, highlighting how basketball legend Michael Jordan famously stayed out of politics to protect and grow his brand. Jordan wasn't driven by ideology or philosophical crusades. His focus was business performance, building something that could connect with everyone by refusing to take partisan sides. By doing so, his brand transcended divisions and reached a global audience. Maher argued this wasn't cowardice, it was clarity. Jordan understood that not every platform needs to serve as a political megaphone. Sometimes restraint is the smartest strategy. In a culture obsessed with turning every product, celebrity, and conversation into a political statement, Maher suggested there's real value in neutrality.
The Boy Scouts of America used to be an organization for boys because girls have cooties. But now the Boy Scouts accept girls, which I guess is inclusive, but it ignores the very important need for boys to sometimes get together as boys to fart in a sleeping bag and laugh at that, which girls don't find funny. It also ignores the fact that there has always also been a scout troop for girls. You may have heard of it, the Girl Scouts.
Maher argued that this movement has infiltrated nearly every corner of society, leaving disruption in its wake. Institutions that were once built with clear purposes are being reshaped beyond recognition. As an example, he pointed to the Boy Scouts, which now includes girls, even though the Girl Scouts already exist. And even if they didn't, Maher questioned what would stop a separate organization from being created just for them. For him, the problem isn't inclusion, it's the erosion of distinction. When every space is expected to serve everyone, those spaces risk losing their meaning entirely. Maher suggested that this relentless push often ignores tradition, structure, and choice.